Humorous and CreepGeeks Podcast. So it begins again. Welcome back to CreepGeeks Podcast. This is Season 9, Episode 337.
Aaron Goodwin, Anabelle Doll, Doomsday Fish, Area 51, and WNC Bigfoot Festival.
Yeah. So it begins again. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And this is CreepGeeks Podcast. You can say the CreepGeeks Podcast or just CreepGeeks Podcast. Doesn't matter. It's all the same. Hashtag CreepGeeks if you're into the social medias. So anyway, we do have a lot of stuff to talk about. There's a couple cool things you can do if you'd like to interact with us. One of us, you can use our toll-free telephone number with the Roswell area code.
That phone number is going to be 575-208-4025.
You can call and leave a message. We do appreciate it, and when we get a message, we play it on the show.
Yeah.
And so we happen to have one from good buddy Dave. We'll play in a minute. He has an opinion on things that we talked about in our last podcast.
A hot take.
Yeah. Hot I don't know if it's a hot take. It's hot chaff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So anyway, we're going to move into the podcast and kind of talk about a couple different things that may or may not be important to you because we put things in the podcast that we think are important to us. And so there you go. So what do you think about that?
Sure.
And just as a warning, this podcast may contain bioengineered and cell-cultivated food products.
Hush.
It's true. Everything we talk about on the podcast is available on our website. If you go to creepgeeks.com, we have links to everything. So if you'd like to take a look at those and, read up, whatever you want to do. Does anybody even do websites anymore?
Not really. I've actually been telling a lot of small businesses to skip the website unless they have like an order or service feature that they need to utilize. And even then, Facebook's starting to integrate a lot of that. Yeah.
I'm still torn. I think if you have a website, you can control your own destiny. So
not necessarily. A good example would be a local art gallery. When people search for that local art gallery, Google is still displaying incorrect information about them.
That's Google's fault. Well, they keep telling me if I don't, submit our website and phone number.
If that's a first,
and they also say, be sure to update your Instagram password. I'm like, yeah, nice try. Not doing that.
But if that's the first place people go to when they search for your business entity, whatever you are, and it says closed or has the wrong phone number.
Yeah, but that's more like Google Maps. If you go to creepgeeks.com, you're not going to get any of that stuff. So, I mean, then you go, let me hand out a business card. So I think a lot of things are starting to go back the way it used to be. I think a lot of people are revolting against AI.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to let AI garbage. Just give me a www.
Yeah.
Might be wrong. Don't care. I'm going to do what we got to do. Plus, it's free. You know what I mean? And a lot of people run into problems because they don't update their WHOIS information. You're supposed to do it every year. You're supposed to change your copyright information too. I haven't done ours. I think it says 2023 on it. I have to take a look and see. So anyway, here's the deal. It's getting ready to be, spring, summertime. Festivals are starting to happen and all that stuff. I'm kind of mixed with those two. There's festivals and conventions you can go to. And I think a lot of them are less popular than they were from the COVID years and all that, or even before the COVID years. And I think if you're going to go to them, you need to go with the idea that it's something to do. But also I think a lot of people have gone to them already. I think a lot of the idea of the 40 and 14, whatever you want to call it, encrypted stuff is kind of dying a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that people are only going to go if it's convenient.
Okay.
It's like, hey, do you want to go here and see, Bigfoot related stuff, cryptid stuff, paranormal stuff, and be inconvenienced by parking fees and everything else? Or do you want to just go do something else, And a lot of it has to do with like the weather and everything, but I don't know. The point is that it's that time of year again to start thinking about the Western North Carolina Bigfoot Festival.
Yes.
And we're not sponsored by those guys. But it is local to us, so, I mean, why not go? It's free. You can show up. They take the whole street, the main drag, and fill it full of vendors hawking all the same stuff.
It is located in downtown Marion, North Carolina. And during the day of the event, I would say the entire main street thoroughfare of Marion, North Carolina is the entire Bigfoot Festival.
Yeah, it's one of the largest.
Over 10 blocks, I want to say, is Bigfoot Festival. On top of that, in the morning, additional space of downtown Marion is taken up because every year they have a Bigfoot fun run for charity for the local school or a local nonprofit. So literally the entire city of Marion, from Mount Ida Wilderness area all the way down to basically the end of town proper, is the Bigfoot Festival.
Yeah, they're going to have all the standard stuff like Bigfoot calling contest, Bigfoot costume contest, town hall meeting, kids zone, food court, free parking with shuttle service, which is nice. A live podcast from Cryptid Crew, which never works out, but that's just my opinion. Sasquatch Recon special guests. They got speakers like Matt Sieber, Terry Wendell, Zach Bales, NC Investigators of the Paranormal, John Brenner from Bigfoot 911. And the event is free to attend, no tickets required, because people were trying to sell tickets. Like, oh, you didn't get your ticket, you need to buy a ticket. And people are like, well, I bought a ticket. And it's like, why, sucker? You fell victim to a scam. Don't buy any tickets. And it goes from 10 to 5, Saturday, August 23rd, basically in Marion, North Carolina. And it switched because it used to be in the spring, and people were like, I'm tired of getting rained on, and I'm afraid of thunderstorms and stuff. So they moved it to the best. No, stop. Nobody asked you to come here and pipe in with your 2 cents. People are afraid of lightning. I wasn't. We were protected under a canvas canopy. It rained super hard, though. And I was so happy that our tent didn't leak. We had people coming in, sheltering from the storm.
Did you forget the footage from the last one?
Absolutely not. I wasn't there for the last one. You were.
Yeah.
I'm just going back off the past where it rained really hard, and we were just sitting there chilling.
Oh, my goodness.
So, but I think it's going to be better, even though it's probably going to be a little bit warmer. The storms are non-existent in August, so. Compared to, and we get like
May, which is just basically thunderstorm season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this time it's going to be in late August. So we know a lot of kids go back to school around that time. So just try to plan in advance. Basically, Western North Carolina is open, and this is a great reason to come to Western North Carolina, specifically Marion, because you've got Bigfoot. You've also got a lot of really cool stuff around nearby. After the festival, go hop in your truck and go find Bigfoot. Linville Gorge Wilderness area is open. So is that Lake James area, which is where one of the first sightings occurred. So, and you know, you can reach out to us. I can give you tips on where there have been Bigfoot sightings. It's going to be a fun time.
Alleged.
Yes.
Let's say alleged sightings. Everybody says sightings, but nobody has any blurry pictures. Just in general.
True.
It's like, oh, I seen this. It's like, come on, man. Where's the blurry footage?
Well, I was actually...
That's everywhere, though. That seems to be the problem with the whole cryptid thing in general, is that you see something, by the time you see it, it's too late to capture some things. Because that's the way this stuff is, man. It's a little aggravating. So I'm going to say, if you're ever out there and you think something weird's going on, don't take a picture. That's stupid. You have a phone.
Yeah.
Hit video.
Yep.
You know, you might shoot 30 frames a second. One of those may be slightly less blurry than the potato picture you're going to take. Do video, man. It drives me nuts. Well, I took this blur. Why did you take a picture?
Especially at night.
Video.
Or like low light situations, which Blue Ridge Mountains National Forest, you're going to run into low light situations.
Yeah, it's dark.
Just open video. Your phones, most of these phones default to some really decent settings when you go to video. So,
unless you got the phone for free or it's been hitting the ground for 100 miles an hour. Anyway, that's enough of that arguing.
So
it bugs me because I bust out with the video as quick as we can.
Yeah.
And by then it's gone. It's like, God.
But if you want information on the WNC Bigfoot Festival, They have a Facebook page. They also have a website. We've got links in the show notes for the podcast. Definitely stay tuned to that Facebook page, though. That is where they're posting all the updates, including leading up to the event, parking, and, other things. So,
yeah, it's fun. It's worth going. And after the festival, if you don't want to go look for Bigfoot, you can go on down and get a pizza. That's what we did. We went hunting for a pizza.
Yeah.
Because it was like we were sitting there and we are wrapping things up, and they're like, hey, Domino's has got pizzas for like $4, man. I was like, what? So,
yeah.
It was good times. Good times. So speaking of good times, we actually got a phone call from Dave. Dave has an opinion about some things on our last podcast where we talked about dinosaur leather. And the idea that, a purse that was made allegedly using dinosaur DNA. And we're going back and forth about, is it actually dinosaur leather? I mean, would you call it dinosaur leather? And that was sort of hinging off what we said with the whole gray wolf, dire wolf.
Yeah.
Is it really a dire wolf? So I think we're going to take a second and going to play that so we can talk about that. We think about that.
Sure.
Okay, so here's where I try to figure out which one I made to play it, because I don't remember. That's not it.
Many of you will remember.
Hi, I'm listening to the current podcast dated May 21, and I'm concerned that you're spending a lot of time talking about chicken skin leather and chicken skin leather handbags and chicken skin leather pants, because we all know that dinosaurs are birds, so it's chicken skin leather. Think about that, chicken leather. It's like chicken jerky. You're wearing chicken jerky. I rest my case.
It is very valid.
Oh, gosh. People are paying, a lot of money for dinosaur boots, and it's just chicken skin.
Chicken.
It's just... Remember when we tried the chicken pork rinds, but they were...
Well, yeah, they were called chicken skins.
Yeah.
And I thought, finally, this is going to be amazing. 'Cause that's the best part of the chicken.
Yeah, whenever you make baked chicken, yeah.
It was awful.
Oh, God, they were so bad.
And it's entirely possible that they were stale. I don't know. Dog liked them. I could not even, man. I tried. It was like... and that was back about 10 years ago. They might be great now.
Oh, God.
Or non-existent, but yeah, he's definitely got a point, I think. That's true if you think about it. Because, I mean, if I seen like a T-Rex dinosaur wallet and I'm like, man, I'm going to get that, but it's really just chicken skin, it might not be.
Oh, they do still exist. In fact, they have horrible names like upcycled chicken skin crisps or Flock Foods.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's gross.
That's,
We had some protein chips one time. That was pretty cool. They were
Yeah.
meat-based. I'm like, man, these are amazing.
Oh, and
They
there's a
were
picture of the
$9 for a small, tiny bag. I'm like, I could just eat a big, giant hamburger and be happier.
They actually have a picture of the ones you tried, the Kim's chicken crackling chicken skins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went to the single gas station that sold them. It was a Quest. Like, heck yeah. And they were terrible.
Yeah, but that's people paying all that money and using all that science brain power to basically make
Chicken skin.
chicken skin.
Chicken skin purse, chicken skin pants, chicken jerky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's right. So I appreciate you calling in, Dave. And that's what happens when you call our 1-800 number and leave a message. We'll listen to it as long as this makes sense for the podcast.
And sometimes not.
Well, I mean, I get them because we get spam sometime. We're like, I'm not. That's unrelated to the show. I'm not going to reset my Instagram password. Come on.
Yeah.
So very nice. Thank you very much, Dave. So here's something that's pretty interesting. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. All right. So we talked about the festival and Bigfoot stuff, right?
Yeah.
And being able to go and see it. And we also kind of talked a little bit about some other things in the past when it comes to Bigfoot stuff and how you get people out there that are experts, right?
Yeah.
And they want to basically make it out that your way is the only way.
Okay.
Or their way is the only way. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of dirtbags out there in the whole Bigfoot realm and paranormal realm and the cryptid realm in general, and this is the whole thing, right? And every once in a while, it sort of pops up. Let me give you some examples. Remember when we talking about Jason Hawes and the problems he was having with the that crazy, I can't say crazy lady because that's probably not nice, but the lady who owns the Conjuring House.
Yeah.
And all the crazy texts and emails he was getting and all that. So it became a little bit of drama there. And then you had drama with Zach Bagans, right? Him being a terrible person.
Okay.
And everybody was mad at him, and Nick Roth was mad. And then Nick Roth had put out a statement on Twitter or X or wherever it was. And then his wife Tessa said some stuff. And then Amy Bruni jumped in there and basically said something. And so it's been this little round robin sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
The problems with the Anabelle doll and, yeah. But there, I can't think of the name of the couple that they wound up having, they killed themselves. It was like a murder thing that happened anyway. And so every once in a while, paranormal stuff just sort of gets a sort of a black eye, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mark and Debbie Constantino.
Yeah, Constantino. And one of the things that was the most recent, and I thought, and we didn't really talk about it because the whole thing was kind of sad to me. Mm-hmm. So in Ghost Adventures, you've got Zach Bagans, you've got Aaron Goodwin, you've got Bill and the other guy, you've got some people, right?
Yeah.
And Zach is typically supposed to be the bad guy out of all this stuff. And his latest drama is that he cheated on Holly, whatever her name is, with 2 women over text messages or something, right? Holly Madison. She used to be a Playboy centerfold model, lived with Hugh Hefner, all that kind of stuff. But Aaron's kind of the lovable goofball, right? Everybody likes him. He's the one that gets typically locked into stuff. You have Aaron get locked into a cabinet or whatever.
Poor Aaron.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. Well, there was a plot that his wife basically tried to hire a hitman who was in prison to have Aaron taken out. Like, take him out. It's like $15,000 or something like that. Well, she got caught.
Yeah.
And it became news for a minute, right? And then she'd been locked up. Her trial came up.
Yeah.
So there was some footage of the trial. And some of the statements that he made and all that, it was out there, right? You could watch little clips on the internet if you want to look. And the clip that I seen was him just basically sobbing out of control in the courtroom. Right?
Yeah.
And, he was like, we had problems and, she tried to have me killed and, she was cheating on me and I wanted to work things out and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so he's genuinely hurt that she was trying to take him out. And he was also mentioning, does he have to worry about the last, all this is going on. Does he have to keep looking over his shoulder for the rest of his life and all this? And basically his wife, ex-wife now, said that, no, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And she was sad. And, he was really sad and crying in court with a little, shirt and tie on. And it was really uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to put I'm not doing any of the audio, or I'm not going to put like links to it. But if you, she falls in the category of the whole paranormal dirtbag.
Facts. I mean, I feel so bad for him.
I do too, but at the same time, I'm like, man, I wish I don't. He was so hurt, he'll probably never recover or trust women again.
Yeah.
Or he's just going to love whatever woman loves him, no matter what, however bad she is to him. I don't know how it's going to go. I kind of wanted to see some outrage.
Yeah.
Or something, because then at least he might be on the lookout for this to never happen to him again, or might be a better judge of trying to, if he's going to, because he got divorced from his first wife. This was his second wife, right?
Yeah.
So, he needs to figure out how to protect himself, I guess. And I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. And I don't know if he can rely on friends to do that, because, the Ghost Adventures people that he hangs around with, those guys, they're all, I don't see them as being the got your back kind of guys. Because they're all sort of screwed up in their own way, right? I mean,
they all have their own stuff going on.
Yeah, well, they're all kind of they're all dipshits. Really, it's kind of what it boils down to. You know what I mean? They are. It's like. I worry about him and his future as far as, is this going to happen to him again as somebody else? Because he looks like he doesn't make choices in a way that would protect him from somebody taking advantage of him.
I found another article, and it's not just like that worry and fear of somebody taking advantage of him. I mean, it's almost like the stages of grief or like the stages of recovery or something. Right now, I think he's in like this severe fear and worry phase, which is valid. I mean, with what's coming out, it's the fact, like, apparently she has put a hit out on him more than once.
Yeah.
And then got blackmailed and spent almost all of our savings to keep it quiet.
Yeah. So, it's a bad situation, man. It's a really bad sort of situation.
And he's hired armed security for over weeks now.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. It's
so
not.
She's, she pled guilty.
Yeah.
Right. So a Nevada judge sentenced her between 3 and 7.5 years after she pleaded guilty to conspiring to have her husband killed while he was away on a filming trip in California. Yeah. She could have just divorced him and took his money, but no, she needed to have him killed. I don't understand that part. So well, I mean, she's sad now.
Yeah.
But Aaron is one of those guys, he's not going to have, he's more hurt. You know how I'm just not tactful. I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
I'd be like, bring it, that kind of thing. But some people aren't that way. He's a nice, very nice, sensitive guy. And he's destroyed.
Yeah.
He's was telling about his heartbreak, right? The love of his life had not only betrayed him with several affairs, but conspired with the prisoner to have him killed. Offered him, it was $11,000, right?
Yeah.
$11,500 to carry out the hit. This Grant Amato was the inmate who was serving out life sentences for basically murdering his parents, his brother. So his wife offered him $11,500 to carry out the hit. She gave him a $2,500 down payment. I didn't know you could make payment plans on that. You'd think that it'd be like sort of finality to it, like one and done. I don't know. I don't know how any of that works.
Deposit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she apologized in court, Victoria, and she said, "I genuinely pray for you. Find your joy and peace again, and I will bow out of your life forever to hopefully erase or ease that process." Why didn't she just leave him and take all his money?
I don't know. I don't know what.
She said, "I'm sorry I broke us, and I'm consumed with regret every day. And my absolute promise to you is that you will never see or hear from me." That's good. Maybe you can let some of the security go. So
Yeah.
October 2024 is when it was supposed to, I guess, occur.
God.
Yeah. Kind of devious plan. So, and there's pictures. He's basically standing there reading off his paper, crying. And it's like, come on, bro. Should have let his lawyer talk. I don't know, man. Paranormal dirtbag she is.
Yep.
So, but maybe he'll be all right. I mean, he's got friends. His Ghost Adventure guys, they're all buddies and stuff, behind the scenes, that kind of thing. And in real life, maybe they'll go out of their way to protect him. Yeah, because the last time I checked any of his stuff was a while ago. He was like at Disney World or something like that. I'm so happy to be at Disney. I don't know. She wanted to make his death appear to be accidental. Provided travel plans.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty. I don't know. What do you think?
Okay. I'm done. I've said I feel bad for him, but that's it. So. Yeah.
Just a hard heart you have. Yep. So, looking at all the stuff on the internet and paying attention to stories and stuff like that, there's a couple different things that always sort of grab my attention. Mm-hmm. And some of it's kind of like sort of the Indiana Jones style adventure stuff.
Yeah.
Like the Last Grail or the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
They still haven't found it. So I'm always interested to hear that. The Nazi money train. Remember that gold train? They're like trying to find the Nazi gold.
Yeah.
The Civil War gold that the FBI stole in Pennsylvania. So I'm like looking for that kind of stuff. And evidently, there's a filmmaker who says that he knows what happened with the Last Grail.
Huh.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, let's talk about it. Because what if he has a different view on what he thinks happened with the Grail, right?
Okay.
But it's not that far off because I've heard it before.
Yeah.
So, and this guy's in England, UK. His name is Mark Christopher Lee, and he basically says he's discovered the exact location of the Holy Grail and reveals his theory. But he's doing it in a way that's just a little different. He's putting it in a horror film.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, all right, I guess you know.
So his fictional story is inspired by the genuine research that points to the Grail being hidden in Hertfordshire. Okay.
Yes.
It's called The Last Grail Hunter and says the story is rooted in his own real-life belief that he found the actual resting place of the Holy Grail and that it's somewhere near St. Albans. All right.
Yeah. So he says, I believe I found evidence linking the Holy Grail's journey to England from Joseph of Arimathea, right, who was entrusted with Christ's burial. And in legend, was given the Grail in a vision. So he thinks it made its way there, which, that's been kind of one of those theories put out. Like it's was taken to England or somewhere in Europe, right? Mm-hmm. And it was also, there's another one where it was taken to the Americas. With the, what do you call those
Mm-hmm.
They're not Rosicrucians, Knights Templar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Masons or something?
No,
Okay.
the Knights Templar.
Okay.
Yeah. So according to Lee, his theory breaks away from the more familiar versions, right? He suggested the sacred relic was recovered by the Knights Templar during the Crusades on basically Temple Mount, smuggled to England, and hidden in places associated with the Templars. This is like Royston Cave. And eventually he believes that the Grail ended up in the hands of Sir Francis Bacon, who is in the basically is Rosicrucian Secret Society, which basically is paired up with the Freemasons.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I think this is a lost forever treasure. Yeah. I don't think we're going to ever make any headway on this.
Yeah, he says his research led him to a site that he believes is a forgotten Templar grave, which he thinks could mark the Grail's hiding place. And of course, I'm keeping the exact location secret for now until I get permission to excavate. Dun, dun, dun. Yep. But in the movie, not only does it go into his idea, right?
Yeah.
It also sort of brings in some other conspiracies, right? So he's going to play them all in there. So, yeah, I don't know. But I thought it's kind of an interesting take. And I would like to see if he puts it up there, like what the deal is, because I like the Holy Grail stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a movie you can maybe watch, right?
Yeah.
Now, there is another one in the same vein as this, but a little bit different. There's basically a mockumentary, a found footage mockumentary movie on the making of the Patterson Project.
I have problems with these because I've seen mockumentaries just bomb, and then I see some that don't get enough traction, and that's why they bomb, but they turned out to be kind of good. And not necessarily mockumentary, but like that one Bobcat Goldthwait did of Willow Creek.
Yeah.
That messed me up. I was not okay after watching that one. But then, like, there was one that was basically the Brown Mountain Lights, and that one was just horrible, you know?
Yeah, well, this one might be better, you know, because you got the whole Patty footage, right? With
Yeah.
Bigfoot, you know, doing the walk and doing the turn, and you know, the whole idea that, you know, people say it's fake, it's real, it's fake, and it keeps going back and forth. It comes up every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is basically the idea is that a film crew of seasoned documentary filmmakers, you know, they try to capture the chaos behind a young director's overambitious plan to create the greatest found footage horror movie ever made. So,
I don't know. I think this is going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, though, because it goes after one of those holy grails of cryptozoology, whether you love it or hate it. And if this is deliberately playing into the mythos, you're going to have so many loyal people who are not going to be happy with it. So
yeah, well, on the other side of that, you're going to have
Yeah.
people who are going to be happy with it too, because you've got people who think it's a fake, and you've got people who think it's not. Right? You can't
Yeah.
recreate the technology. You can't, you know, the way things with the suit, and if it's a suit, you know, all that stuff. So we'll see. As long as they can do it, I guess, in a way that's kind of respectful,
yeah.
not too, you know, I don't know. As long as they kind of, I don't know how to say it. As long as they're respectful to the idea and don't make it, you know, like it was set out to be a blatant fake kind of thing. I don't know how to put that. You can
Intentional, if they pose it as though that all of the Patterson film was intentionally made to be bad or be a hoax.
I don't know. Because the thing is that, you know, there's a trailer you can watch to get an idea.
Yeah.
And I kind of am thinking about when it comes out, maybe kind of watching a little bit and see, you know, I'm just looking at it like, well, what if I don't know how they're going to do it in a way that doesn't make it, they can really easily go into the whole idea of the moon landing is fake and was filmed and do that. And I don't think it needs to be that way.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of holding reserved judgment. And also I can't talk because it's almost dinner time. So if people are like, what's wrong with him? You know, thinking about I want it to be good. I want it to be funny.
Yeah.
You know, they could do a twist at the end where it's like they're trying to make this movie and then got lost and somebody found it and thinks it's real. Mm-hmm. That'd be kind of a neat little twist.
Okay.
I don't want it to be like, you know, it was deliberate, intentionally, you know, set out to be a fraud from the very beginning, and they're trying to recreate this fraud, kind of the moon landing thing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. But yeah, if you want to watch it whenever it comes out, because I don't know when it comes out. I just thought, probably, I think it's supposed to be in June, like last week in June 24th, here somewhere. I don't know where you can watch it. Maybe it'll be streamable.
Yeah, it is. So
Does it say where?
I'm trying to find that out. No, it doesn't.
Yeah. Found footage, the making of the Patterson Project. Maybe it'll be Hulu. Who knows? I don't really know. It's going to be terrible. It's a mockumentary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have an alien pulse, a deep space object has been sending out radio signals.
Okay.
Were you aware of this?
No, I sent you something else. So,
Well,
yeah.
okay.
So I don't know what this is.
Well, back in the olden days, when we were living in New Mexico, you could go out to the VLA. Very large array. Has like 28, I think it's 28 radio telescopes. It's where Jodie Foster sat there on the hood of the car with little headphones like she was plugged into the side of this thing listening to signals. Right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, we got to get repeating. If it repeats, then we need to swing the other telescopes around in place and do all this stuff to verify that it's just not some, you know, just randomly occurring, naturally occurring sort of radio signal burst that happens with like quarks and quasars and black holes and everything else, right?
Yeah.
The idea is that if you have a repeating signal, and it can be sort of triangulated or verified with other radio telescopes, then that's an intentional message coming from somewhere out in space. In other words, not a naturally occurring occurrence, but a deliberate sort of, and man-made occurrence. You know what I mean?
Okay.
For a while there, you could actually take your computer, and at night when your computer was sleeping, you could basically lend your processing power of your computer so that it could basically take all the data that came in through SETI and crunch the numbers to have like sort of a large, 10, 15,000 computers crunching it away at all this data to try to find life in the universe, right?
Yeah.
So, in Australia, with the ASCAP J182, whatever name of the telescope, at this Chandra X-ray Observatory, there's a cosmic anomaly that's been basically emitting powerful bursts of radio waves and X-rays for 2 minutes every 44 minutes. So it does like a blast for 2 minutes, and then 44 minutes later, it does it again. So it's a repeating signal. And that's something that really hasn't ever been seen before. So it's basically being classified as a long period transient. So the object may be a magnetar or a magnetized white dwarf in a binary system. They don't really sort of know. So they have a bunch of current theories that it just doesn't really explain this rhythmic activity of this thing. Like blasting a signal for 2 minutes and then turning off, and then coming back for 2 minutes and then turning off. So scientists are like, hey, this could, point to unknown physics or a new type of stellar evolution. But is this really just sort of a, hinting at alien life? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. In other words, I don't really know, but this is a repeating signal. This is obvious. You know how you like aliens, right?
Yeah.
They might be calling.
I'm sure they have people much smarter than me trying to figure out the pattern. So,
well,
yeah.
Jodie Foster figured it out. Yeah. So
They really love it when you go to the VLA and ask where Jodie Foster is. They love it.
no, that lady got super mad. What's she gonna do? She don't know who we are. She ain't listening. So we actually went out there on like a little bit of a field trip. Shot out to the VLA. Took us about an hour and a half, something like that, to get there. And then we showed up. We just showed up.
Yeah.
And evidently you're supposed to call
Yeah.
and be part of a group and arrange a time for it to take a tour so they know how many people are there and all that. Because this is a government facility. Mm-hmm. You can't just show up. But we did. We showed up, got out of the car, and this, lady come over huffing and puffing and was like, Are you our 1 o'clock? I thought she said, is it 1 o'clock? And I said, yes.
Yeah.
And she said, come with us.
Or are you with the 1 o'clock group?
Yeah, I didn't hear all that.
Yeah. But she said it so fast, I got frustrated because she immediately turned around and started walking.
Yeah, so she was important,
Yeah.
and she looked like she had a purpose, and we were involved in that, and so we went. And we jumped in there and just hopped into a tour group or a tour guide or whatever, and we took the tour and got to see a nuclear time clock, which is pretty cool. Got to see the radio telescopes and how they work and how long they've been doing that sort of thing, and
Yeah.
And they had a couple little pictures of, hey, this is where they filmed, Contact with Jodie Foster. And they said, do you have any questions? And I was like, so where did Jodie Foster work? And she was in here, and that lady was just super angry about it.
Or no, you said is this Jodie Foster's office? Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, because then I asked, is this her workstation? So I was pretty mad. If I remember correctly, I think Dave, who called in ranting about chicken skin, was with us.
Yeah, wasn't it Dave and
Dennis,
yeah.
So, but it was awesome. I liked going there. It was pretty neat, because they have little signs and stuff like turn off your cell phones, because they don't want the signals that your cell phone captures to sort of impede, the signal that comes from space, I guess. So
Or they
and
don't.
these things roll around, and they have to do maintenance on them, and they're all point one way or the other. It's a awesome photogenic place to take pictures.
And
it's
they're
like
actually
Instagram
on-
heaven for doing that sort of.
And they're
astronomy
on
pictures.
railroad tracks because that's the whole point of them being an array. You can position this array for different, better signal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And they're huge.
Yeah.
Now, there's also a couple of nice little art installations they have over there
Yeah.
that you can see. And at the very end of it all, I guess you're supposed to pay. We didn't really pay. We gave a donation.
And I bought a T-shirt
Yes.
that I still have. So
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
yeah.
Fun times. And she was super mad about that.
Yeah.
Like she hadn't heard it a million times. And I knew that when I said it. Like, I know they hear this all the time. I just didn't think she would just, have unveiled rage on her face when I said it. I was like, oh, son. Yeah. I don't know. We should go back out there.
Yep.
And we will. So here's something. I don't know how you feel about Anabelle.
I am weird
The
about
haunted doll that kind of looks like Raggedy Ann.
doing this article because a lot of this has kind of been debunked. So, but Anabelle, the doll that was in that movie, what was that movie? Or The Conjuring or whatever, that haunted
Wasn't
doll.
it called Anabelle?
Maybe, sure.
Okay.
I think the mythos around her and her connection to hauntings and doll possession has been a little hyped up. And various owners of this doll have hyped up her power and her unluckiness and all this other stuff. And I do believe in cursed objects, but I think a lot of cursed objects don't make the headlines because of how cursed they are.
Yes.
And with Anabelle arrived at the Black Swan Inn, which is a notoriously haunted location in San Antonio, and her appearance at Psychic and Spirit Fest drew curious thrill seekers and paranormal enthusiasts, but then it also drew a lot of internet attention, and bad or unfortunate things that happen generally in the general area are getting attributed to her. And some of it started off as a joke.
Yeah, this all sort of ties in with Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Mm-hmm.
And Spiro, I think, was their son-in-law's name. And he wouldn't let anybody touch it. And he would do tours for $80. You can go eat a spaghetti dinner and look at Anabelle and all this crazy stuff. So, here's the tour, right? The tour is happening. And the reason why I put this in here is I was trying to tie in paranormal dirtbags and find all these instances of, like, just people being garbage in the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't as successful as I wanted to be, and that's okay. But why I put this in here is because there is another paranormal dirtbag that we need to talk about, Ryan Buell.
Yeah.
So Ryan Buell had a show, Paranormal State? Mm-hmm. Paranormal State, which also spawned off the show that Chip Coffey did with Paranormal Kids.
Yeah.
I can't think of what that was called, and it was a whole thing. Well, Ryan Buell had a substance abuse problem at one time, I guess, and but the thing that said he had cancer. Mm-hmm. They were doing all these shows and tours and stuff. People didn't get their money back. There was
Quite a bit of drama.
Yeah, including abuse to his friend Serge. It was just a bad scene, right? Mm-hmm. His friend, and he sort of disappeared for a while. Well, evidently he's back, and he's trying to, I guess, repair his destroyed reputation, because the Paranormal State was a good show.
It was.
But he kind of wrecked it with the whole thing.
Yeah.
And now he's taking this doll out on a Devils on the Run tour. It's a traveling exhibit, and it's organized by paranormal investigator Ryan Buell of Paranormal State. And what I don't know, and there's been a lot of time has passed, maybe 10 years has passed between Paranormal State, probably even more, and now. But Anabelle the doll and Tony Spiro,
Yeah.
he wouldn't let that thing go for anything.
Yeah.
He was real protective of it. And all of a sudden, he's letting Ryan Buell just run around with this thing. So I'm not sure what's kind of going on there. You know, the Psychic and Spirit Fest and all that stuff. Is he going too? Is he there? Or why would he let that go? And there's been some ideas that this is not the real Anabelle doll, that the real Anabelle doll is locked in the Vatican and places like that, that you can't find it, that the real one is put away and sequestered. And,
Yeah. And here's the thing.
because it doesn't say if Tony Spear is even involved, or if the Rains are involved, or the Warrens are involved.
So I did a little research on this, and we don't have those answers. What we do have answers to is this event that they went to in San Antonio. There was an entity there called Ghost City Tours, and they were charging admission to see Anabelle at the event, because you went to the event, but then you also had to pay admission
Right.
to see Anabelle. And the owner of Ghost City Tours is Tim Nealon. And, you know, he had made a little silly post, and that was the post that was on Facebook that basically said, you know, we want to make the announcement that Anabelle has not been attached to the Nottingham plantation fires, because Ryan Buell put it out there saying, I mean, how did he word it? It was, Anabelle comes to Louisiana and a historic home burns down and 11 inmates escape from jail. And now she's in San Antonio, Texas, waiting. Go home, Anabelle. And that was some Twitter user.
Yeah.
But somebody else had attributed, you know, this whole thing happening. So Ghost City Tours posted on Facebook, look, no, she's not the reason for this. Well, the internet picked up on it and said, we disagree.
Well, part of this is because I guess Brian Buell is documenting her trip across the U.S. on TikTok.
Yeah.
So you get like a bunch of interaction that way, probably millions of views and thousands of comments. So, yeah, I don't. The whole thing just seems kind of weird. It just seems almost kind of sketchy.
Yeah, because how did Ghost City Tours and how did this festival, what was it, the Psychic and Spirit Fest, get into some sort of agreement to have the Anabelle doll with Ryan Buell? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. And if he's already got a problematic past, I think you're completely right. How do we know this is the real Anabelle
And
doll?
he's been doing, ghost investigations and stuff that you can pay and go to. So he's been doing stuff kind of on the quiet. Because there was a bunch of stuff in South Carolina you could go down and do. And so I'm just kind of leery about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, if Chip Coffey was on board,
Yeah.
I might be more inclined to go just to look at the doll or whatever. But
I don't know.
still kind of I still think he sort of fits in the whole paranormal dirtbag category. But
Yeah.
he just was sort of sketchy, right? So, speaking of sketchy, so there's an Area 51 cover story that raises more questions than answers, because it's that time of year getting close to July, because in July you have the Area 51 Festival in New Mexico, right?
And this
Usually around the 4th of July weekend kind of a thing?
And this weekend we have the Spruce Pine Alien Expo. So,
Oh, really?
yeah.
I don't know. That's,
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to go to that.
So,
It's supposed to rain this weekend.
I know.
So I read this article, and this is on Coast to Coast, where it says, of course, the Area 51 cover story raises more questions than it answers, right?
Yeah.
And here's what it says. The U.S. Department of Defense released a report claiming that the Pentagon ran a decades-long misinformation campaign to hide classified operations at Area 51. And there's a new confession. It says, however, this newest confession of lying to the public begs the question, is the story just a cover-up, or is it a bigger cover-up for something even more mysterious? So, did they cover something up by saying, hey, aliens and all that stuff? Or are they really just trying to cover up the fact that it really was aliens and all that stuff? So, according to the investigation, officials disseminated doctored UFO photographs to nearby residents starting in the 80s. And that's one of the admissions that they made in the report. Yes, they started doctoring and sending out these doctored photos, right?
So what exactly were they covering up? I still don't understand.
Cover up something by saying that they're trying to say that UFOs. like a diversionary tactic, or covering up something by putting the idea out there that it's actually UFOs.
Yeah, what was it then? What are
That's the whole point. Nobody knows. They're covering it up. That's what a cover-up is. It's a diversionary tactic. Check this out. Look at that. Aliens over here. I'm hiding what I'm doing over there. And what I'm hiding over there, you don't even know. Yep.
That's dumb.
I thought they were doing that. I thought this was a thing. I thought that everybody knew this. That the government hides stuff. And they use diversionary tactics. I just thought this was a common thing. Evidently, this is news. So it's possible the U.S. is taking credit for advanced technology that's not its own. Talking about craft that they see maneuvering in ways that's not possible, modern technology. And so if they're trying to...
Boo.
If they're saying, you know what, it's all aliens, man, but it's really just hiding military tech, that's a common thought too. Right? So I guess I don't understand... Area 51 and all this, like, because I tie Area 51 to Roswell. Mm-hmm. I thought this was just common knowledge that the government will do something like put out false information to hide whatever they're trying to hide.
I think it's the content that I'm having a problem with.
I mean, look at Bob Lazar, right? Allegedly, they fed him information and made him a patsy, so he would, go out there and he put it all out there, and so. By feeding him misinformation and him putting it out there, it made it so crazy and fantastical that nobody believed that any of that stuff's going on at Area 51. Discredit him by putting enough of the idea that this is just, fantastical, that nobody believed that it was really doing other secret stuff at Area 51. So what are they trying to hide? Are they hiding aliens or advanced military technology?
Or if we go along the lines of like that one limited series podcast, Crash in Roswell, are they hiding failed military technology?
Well, I don't know. It's Area 51. Who knows?
Because, that was the whole thing that basically Crash in Roswell was explaining that it was kind of like with, I guess, what Nick Redfern and the other guys were saying. It was government experiments that unfortunately the public found out about the crash in Roswell, and those were human bodies that had been subjected to some sort of testing or chemicals. Those were first taken to the Roswell Air Force Base and then taken to Area 51, along with other failed aeronautic technology.
Well, I think it was actually from Roswell to Wright-Patterson, and then eventually some of the stuff ended up in Area 51.
Yeah, and I don't know. I still want to, and that's what I'm about to say
that would
right
be a
there.
great cover-up. Because remember the whole thing is that they would take volunteers.
Yeah.
And tell them that their families are going to be taken care of. Mm-hmm. And some of these volunteers came from places where the people weren't able to make a informed, intelligent decision. Mm-hmm. In other words, picking up defective people is what they said.
Yeah.
So people with mental abnormalities or, maybe being, criminals.
Or terminal illnesses.
Or prisoners was one.
But,
and basically putting them up at high altitude and subjecting them to radiation to see what would happen.
Why would they pick?
So what would you really believe in? Your government is experimenting on your own people doing horrific war crime type stuff like the Nazis were guilty of doing? Or it's aliens and UFOs?
But why would they always pick? Why would they pick the topic that has more valid traction? It is all of it. 90% of America does believe there is intelligent life out there. Whether or not it's that's the whole.
Well, it was a relatively new thing with
over
the whole
here.
UFOs and aliens and the idea, because the sci-fi got big in the early, late 40s or in the early 50s.
Sci-fi was being written about as early as the early 1900s.
But it was not put on screens. Sure, people could read books and talk about it, but when you see it on a movie screen, that's a completely different world.
Or War of the Worlds, the radio program.
Right, but which is great. Put it on a movie screen.
I don't know.
So if they're sending out doctored photos, and they just carried the same sort of government program over to Area 51, to just keep putting out weird doctored photos and stuff and the diversionary would be, we would like you to believe that there's aliens and stuff and not our own military technology. Which is something that we've talked about for a minute. It's not aliens for a lot of things. It's just hidden military technology. We don't know what it is, guys. I have no idea what that is. And we've got all these drones and stuff flying around. I mean,
I don't know.
Which would you really believe in?
It's a lot of extra work.
Not really. You pass around a couple doctor photos. You find the weirdo who's out there looking at the skies all the time. Feed him some information. Dress up in some black suits and walk around. Scare people a little bit. You make the conspiracy grow. You don't even have to grow a conspiracy. You put the seed in the right place. That thing will blow up. Everybody will believe it.
Me and somebody at work were talking, and it was somebody who's not into this sort of stuff, but he basically said, why are all the aliens starting from the beginning depicted as these super skinny, like weird, almost insect-like type things, and why aren't there any fat aliens? And I was like, well, I don't know. Maybe it was easier to build like fake dummies and all that other stuff. He was like, well, why not just get a dummy of normal proportions and fake it that way? And I'm like, I don't have that answer. So,
well, the answer is that if you spend extended period of times in space in micro or no gravity environments, you're going to become long and spindly. Mm. We've seen that in shows. Who knows, man? So, yeah, evidently there has been some truth to the idea that the government has been putting out, disinformation about aliens and stuff, sort of perpetuating the idea that aliens exist in UFOs and flying saucers and all that. Mm. And, remember the Cold War was a thing.
Yeah.
It's evidently coming back, but, hey, we don't want people to know we got this, so we don't know what the technology, we don't want people to know exactly what we're capable of, so let's just start sending out disinformation and stuff. There's even the idea, the crazy theory that nuclear weapons don't actually exist. It's just been one big sort of, monuments men kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the name of that, I can't think of it. There was a company in World War II that would create like fake tanks and airplanes and stuff like that. So when they would fly over, like the Allied force or the Nazis or whatever, the Germans would fly over and take pictures, they would see, all this military hardware and go, oh man, they're going to invade from here because they're staging all this equipment here and all that. And it's all fake. And so that plant that misinformation so that the force or whatever that they were going to be using would sort of get divided off, sort of splinter things and make them less impactful.
Boeing Plant 2. That was the one where
there's a whole group that made like balsa wood tanks and stuff like that.
Boeing Wonderland, the fake city is on America's West Coast.
Well, that's one of them where basically, they created fake cities. Underneath it was a huge factory to kind of keep up with the war effort. So anyway, it's sort of the same thing. It's all about misinformation. Mm-hmm. But I just kind of thought that everybody knew that this is what they did, And then you got conspiracies to counter the conspiracy. Well, if you see the men in black and they look human, that's really the government. But if you see the men in black and they don't look human, those are the aliens. It's like, come on, man. You can spend your entire life trying to dig through this stuff and not really have any real answers.
Douglas Aircraft Company was another one. So
yeah, but I mean, we're talking about over in Europe. They would basically build balsa wood tanks and stuff like that, set them up so that when Intel got back to the Germans, they said, man, they're amassing their forces over here. We need to either, divert our troops there and our resources there or somewhere else to try to influence the way the war worked. And that's what they did. It's not Monuments Men. There was a movie where they went around and got art back. They were like the Ghost Company or something like that. I can't think of what they were, but
Ghost Army.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. But I just thought this was common knowledge. Evidently not.
The Royal Engineers were stationed and constructed 2 per day. So Yeah.
Yeah. And that just goes to everything else. They used to paint the ships that way. They'd paint the ships with different shapes and stuff like that, and they would change the way the paint on the side of the ship looked so that you would think that the ship was deeper in the water than it actually was, so that when you shot them with the torpedo would go underneath the vessel, hide the water line. It was nuts. I mean, I wasn't there, but, So I guess there's documentation saying, yep, we're sending out fake information to steer the narrative. And what's the narrative steering to? We'll leave it up to you guys, and you can run with it. And everybody certainly has.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Kind of funny. So that culminates to it's going to be the end of the world because there's been 2 rare doomsday fish that have washed ashore.
Would you stop?
Well, I'm just kind of rounding it out, right? So these doomsday fish, right, these are the ones that live in the deepest depths of the ocean, washed ashore, and that's a global superstition is that when you see the doomsday fish, it's the end. Because, Now what these actually are is oarfish. And so you've got oarfish sightings that happen in India and Australia, and they basically saying that, if you see them long enough, it's going to be a natural disaster. And this became popular again because that little tiny little fish that came up from the depths that everybody took pictures of, is like seen on the internet, that little fish with the weird fang teeth and a little light bulb thing hanging off his head.
Yeah.
And they found one. They're like, oh my God. And it was like this big. As big as a quarter. It wasn't very big at all. So they've had a couple different incidences happen in the past couple of weeks where these rare deep sea oarfish, which have been nicknamed the Doomsday fish, have washed ashore in India and basically Tasmania.
Yeah.
And it brings up, there's an ancient legend that basically says when you see these fish, it's the harbinger of natural disasters.
In San Diego, one showed up in August in 2024.
Yeah.
That was first spotting in that area in 125 years. And then Japan had one show up in 2011 during the earthquake. Yeah. Or actually, before the earthquake, the months prior to the earthquake, a couple of oarfish washed up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So the idea is that something basically disturbs these things.
Yeah.
And they come up, and then shortly thereafter, you have some kind of natural disaster.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm more worried about like salmonella outbreak that we've been having in the U.S. more than these oarfish. But
tomatoes.
Yeah. So a dog walker found the one in Tasmania.
Oh.
So he's got a picture of his dog sniffing at it. The dog's trying to figure out if he could eat it. He said, I could see this guy, Sybil Robertson said, I could see it was a long fish, but I had no idea what kind of fish. As I got closer, I could see the beautiful coloring around its head and markings on it. And it was fabulous.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird looking fish. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
And so, basically, they're like, yeah, we're seeing a lot of these rare doomsday fish washing up these days. That's what it's like. It's only been a couple. So, I think there's been one washed up on a Mexico beach.
Yeah.
So, 6.5 magnitude earthquake recorded in Colombia.
There you go. And then wasn't there a tsunami in Argentina recently?
I think so.
Yeah.
Is it related to these fish? You could say they were. See? Natural disaster.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, natural disasters happen all over the world. I mean, it's not like you got SpaceX that's...
These things got weird faces.
Yep.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about SpaceX kept dropping stuff in western North Carolina? Mm-hmm. Evidently you got some SpaceX rocket debris littering some Mexico beach and threatens the environment.
Oh.
So.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Okay.
Watch out for the salmonella. There's been tomato recalls, egg recalls, hamburger meat recalls. Maybe that's it. This is how we go.
From food.
Yeah, salmonella.
Oh, gosh.
Locked in on the old turlet. All right, so we're going to do a couple different things here. This is something I put out. We got a couple more things we're just going to kind of mention a little bit. The Doomsday fish I thought was pretty interesting. Yeah. This I thought was super cool. So the idea is, what if your house changed color with the seasons?
I would love this.
I think this is brilliant.
Yeah.
So, all right. When you look at the idea of being off the grid, there's things that you can do. Solar panels, geothermal, and all that stuff. You know, paint one side of your house that's, when you have the winter time, when the sun comes up, you paint that side of your house black or a really dark color so it heats up your house, so you can take advantage of the natural sort of passive heating, you know, because the sun's going to warm it up. And then on the opposite side, in the summertime where the sun is really hot, you paint it like a lighter color so it reflects the heat, and use different types of paint, you know, to kind of keep the heat out, so you can keep your sort of natural heating and cooling going on your house and not spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
Or use a lot of energy. So there's this dude who wanted to make his house as environmentally as possible, Joe Doucette, and a designer and an engineer and an inventor he is. He basically found himself wondering whether the exterior of his home could play a role in mitigating the effects of climate change. Well, of course it can, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that he hadn't considered was, like, what color should I paint the house? And so it kind of talks in this little article about, you know, it's a well-known, you know, light colored buildings reflect the heat, and darker colors, you know, absorb some heat. And like, if you look at a place like Scandinavia, they have a lot of black houses there because it's cold, right? So they use every bit of heat they can get. So this guy Doucette, he started basically 3D printing small scale models of his houses, of the houses that he has, that he was trying to do and design and build, with different levels of insulation, painting them different colors. And over the course of the year, he found out that in wintertime, the inside temperature of the black model was an average of 7 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the white one.
Huh.
So that can mean the difference between 62 degrees and 70 degrees. That's warm in a house. In the wintertime, you don't need, you know.
Yeah.
So, and the white model was 12 degrees cooler in the wintertime. So he says the answer wasn't, should I paint it black or white? The answer was, it should be black in the winter and white in the summer.
Yeah.
Because you can paint one wall black, one wall white, or whatever. There's no in between. So what he figured out to do was, he says it's not really feasible to paint a house twice a year. So he's thinking there's got to be a way to make this work without having to do all that. So his inspiration to make this happen was his childhood interest in mood rings. You know, you put the mood ring on, depending on the temperature, your whatever, it gives you different colors. So I recall a fascination I had with the mood ring as a child, and was really trying to dig in and understand what it was. So using the idea that, you know, chemistry was at play, he figured out a way that he could use a process called thermochromic response to develop some kind of thermochromic pigment, which contains crystals, right? And he started implementing, like using household paint, and he'd put these thermochromic pigments crystals inside the paint until he finally got to a point where, you know, using the paint and different additives and stuff, he got a substance that could change color by absorbing ultraviolet light, which of course produced the heat, and give it a color based off the temperature. So when it's like 60 outside and not a lot of sun, it turns black. When it's 70 outside and a little bit of sun, it becomes a little bit of a darker gray color. And when it's 80 outside and a lot of sun, it goes to a really light gray.
This is so cool.
Yeah. So despite what he called a great success on his initial trials, Doucette found that his new paints would slowly degrade in the sunlight. So what he had to do is he kept experimenting, and after about a year, he figured, you know, he could solve the issue, and he found that he could add a protective additive to it. And so his climate responsive paint, which is what he's calling it, appears very, very dark gray below 77 degrees and will gradually turn lighter as temperature rises to become, you know, better for the summertime. So he's filed a patent, and he says his invention won't be especially useful for people in consistently hot or cold climates, But he believes this paint could be a game changer for those living in some of the world's most temperate zones where you actually have seasons, right?
Yeah.
Including large parts of North America, Europe, and Asia, where the average temperatures can be 50 degrees higher in the warmer months, but then as low as 26 degrees in the winter months. So you could put this stuff on your house, and your house will change with the seasons.
I think that's really neat.
I think this is fantastic, and it's he sees his invention as a direct response to the changing climate rather than an innovative new technology. I don't see it that way, but this could have been done 70 years ago.
Yeah.
Because it's not. Because it's like, why hasn't somebody done this? I would totally do that. I mean, if you were in a place, just the passive energy savings alone of being able to keep your house hot or cold or whatever and vary sort of with the environment. It's like, why haven't we done this?
I don't know. I do think it is that different perspective that he's coming from that helped him, develop this idea. So, I mean, and especially with like the costs of everything going up. I mean, granted, now that this is out there, it's probably going to cost an arm and a leg to do this to your house.
Well, he says in 5 to 10 years, you'll be able to, it should be proliferated enough, hopefully, that the price will be there.
But will people want to do it? I mean,
well, he says his reactions respond from "that's amazing" to "I don't believe you." I think if you got it out there,
and
enough people started doing it, and you put the whole, hey, this is a green way you can adapt to your environment and be part of, and work with climate change, and of course it will.
Yeah,
all he needs is one good television show.
That's true.
It's like, hey, look what I'm doing to my, off the grid passive tiny home or whatever. It turns black in the wintertime, so I get more heat, right? Mm-hmm. Because your biggest energy bill is heating and cooling.
Yeah.
And because a lot of that's powered by electricity, right? You get electric heat or even gas heat, whatever, man. And then electric AC or even swamp coolers. So if you could reduce your energy bill by, let's just say 7%, that's kind of worth doing, depending on how much the paint costs. Now, if the paint's like $35,000 for, enough to paint a small single-family, dwelling, like a ranch house that's maybe 1,200 square feet, that's cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
I can pay a lot of heating and electricity bills with $35,000. But if it's $1,200, maybe $2,000, that's worth it. Because if you look at it, because they'll have to break it down with saying, okay, if you don't have to cool as much and you don't have to heat as much, that saves wear and tear on your HVAC systems and all that. But yeah. So the changing political climate may also impact his product's route to market. Because, of course, they have to bring politics in because this is on AccuWeather.com. So, I don't know. The green news scam and all that stuff.
I would.
They'll subsidize it. Maybe it'll be something inexpensive or less expensive. Now they end it with, there's no single solution to climate change. It's a series of steps and small actions. But this one could be a meaningful one. I thought this was great.
I like this idea.
Yeah.
So.
Because he's kind of looking at, think about it like this. What if you could buy a car with this?
Gosh.
Maybe you live in New Mexico or Arizona or Texas, where it's like 1,000,000 degrees. And you want a color other than white or silver. Maybe you could get your car painted with this stuff. So when you're out there and it's cold, you can have it, a nice darker color, kind of keep it a little bit warmer. I don't know. I just think I thought it was super cool.
Yeah.
I would do it. If I was building a tiny house somewhere and I had the ability to do it, I would totally do it. Because maybe that's where you get your real savings. If you have a smaller home, you don't have to buy as much paint, If the paint can last 10, 15, 20 years, put a metal roof and put it up there because your attic space gets really hot, which is where they put the heat exchanger for your AC a lot of times, which is really dumb to me, but I don't know. So let's round this up with something I thought was common that everybody knows about. They've recently done a study with chimpanzees, and they say that chimpanzees strike stones against trees as a form of communication.
I thought people knew that.
So did I.
Yeah.
Evidently, it's not a thing. Or, I guess I don't understand what was the point of it, but the reason why I stuck it in here is like the idea that Bigfoot, right, does tree knocks for communication. Now they're saying that chimpanzees do some sort of tree knocks for communication. So what this actually does is it lends sort of credence to the idea that tree knocks that you hear in the woods, if Bigfoot's out there communicating, whatever, is a thing. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, it makes sense. They're trying to communicate. Chimpanzees are doing it with rocks and sticks and stuff, beating on trees. Of course, Bigfoot would do it. If you could put Bigfoot in the category of, the great apes.
Okay, so I think what this guy's trying to explain, when some of us were told that chimpanzees used stones as tools, and sometimes they use them to warn of predators, us lay folk were just assuming, oh, that meant they just banged it rapidly against a tree or something without conscious thought. If you dig through Google News and stuff like that, it's like, no, they actually have a rhythmic pattern that different groups of the monkeys use, or chimpanzees use. So like group A may do like 3 quick knocks, means a predator's nearby, but a group 20 miles to the south might use like...
It also mocks the Holy Trinity.
2,
like demons do.
Hush, like 2 slow knocks or something.
Yeah.
So I guess they actually have their own... It's not just a random, let me make loud noise on tree, let me make an actual type of communication.
Well, yeah. Well, the idea of Bigfoot's is that they do the tree knocks as they get closer. If there's more than one, they'll knock again, so they can kind of hear the difference. But so they got paid a bunch of money to say, hey, they're not just knocking all crazy. They're actually using it in a way that actually says there's some communication involved. So there you go. I thought it was kind of neat.
Yeah.
Monkeys are getting smart. Speaking of getting smart, whales can one day be heard in court and use their own words. Because we're talking about communication, right? So there's the idea that using AI, they could record whales, right, and figure out the language. Mm-hmm. And if that could be the case, where you can take the whale communication and figure out the language, then the whales could actually communicate.
Yeah.
And if they communicate and they're intelligent, because going off the big brain theory and all that stuff, there you go. So one day in the future, a whale can be like, hey, man, I got ran over by this boat. I didn't like it. Right? But the idea is that using AI to basically crunch through all this data and try to figure things out, that we may be able to one day communicate with animals.
I see this backfiring so quickly.
And the reason why I stuck this in here is because it makes sense with whales and dolphins and porpoises and such. It's because the government has been studying those things for a long time.
Yeah, but imagine it. Okay, I'm thinking the worst possible scenario because I have no faith in humanity. This article says that, whales could one day be heard in court, expanded whale rights and legal personhood. Imagine a yacht-owning billionaire taking a killer whale to court because the killer whale destroyed his boat.
Yeah, or
That's awful.
maybe the killer whale has to testify in court. It says, hey man, this is our mating grounds, and you're out here running around all crazy.
Yeah, trespassing.
Yep. So I took your boat out. Stand your ground. It's the castle doctrine or whatever.
I mean, I gotta side with the killer whales. I'm sorry, but I mean I could see that happening if whales were given legal personhood. I picture some.
That may happen in the future.
That's poor babies.
Because the whole idea with AI being able to just crunch mega pints of data. Mm. So who knows? I mean, I think that'd be terrible because it's just going to go to the fact where, everything is smart in its own way and everything can communicate. And, when you're eating a salad, it's screaming. All that's going to come to true.
I don't eat octopi anymore because they pass
they're gross and they're smart.
They pass too many of the sentience tests, and I'm not comfortable with eating.
The smartest thing out
small.
there is probably a whale. We don't know he's smart because we can't communicate, right?
Yeah, well, we can't really communicate with octopi either, and apparently, like, half their DNA doesn't even come from this planet.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But with a whale, how do you test its smartness? You can't be bothered.
We just have to learn how to think like them, or
Well,
how to properly communicate with them.
what if he's just thinking in a way that we don't want to understand? Like, duh.
Stop! Don't say that.
Duh.
Hey. You know what? They take dogs' testimony in court for certain things, and a lot of them are so.
Well, I think dogs looking at you. I think the dogs are kind of different because they also have, certain attributes that they don't have to think about.
That one meme where it's a German Shepherd, and it's like, you're going to jail, Greg.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it's like they can smell weird. They smell stuff that we would never eat, but I don't think they smell it and think in terms of taste. I think they smell it, and it's just like a little light bulb goes off their head and goes, this meets all the nutritional requirements for being edible. I need this. Yeah, because they can smell really good. The only thing that smells better than a dog is a bear.
Yeah.
You don't see them out there eating their own poop. But, yeah. Does a bear eat his own poop in the woods? I don't know. So, yeah, there you go. So that was just a sort of wrap up. I've had that story sitting in our podcast show notes for like the past 3 episodes, and I put it in there because it's National Geographic.
They do.
Bears eat their own poop? Well, you got to get them berries and stuff out of there. We can't say anything better. There's what's that coffee that they feed?
Civet cats?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They eat the coffee beans or whatever, and then they poop it out, and we strain it, and we're like, oh, look, it's delicious. And it's like, come on, man. I'm not eating bugs either.
Yeah.
I tried with the chicken skins, but that was unsuccessful.
Ugh.
They may or may not be better. We may have to revisit that. And, I'm not going to pay a lot of money for a chicken skin wallet. Dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are for suckers, right? I'm just saying. What?
Want to hear some of that techno music?
Anyway, do appreciate you taking time to listen to the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let us know.
And feel free to call the show. Again, that phone number is 575-208-4025. Join us on social media. We have a fairly active Facebook group. You can find that real easy. CreepGeeks Facebook group. We have a page where we update when we release new episodes. And we have a TikTok as well and an Instagram. So check those out.
We got all the stuff covered. So. All right. Anyway. Until the next episode.
Okay.
See you later. Take it easy. Bicycle.
Bye.